Hello and welcome to Matt's Casual Cooking. Today we are going to be making breakfast cinnamon biscuits. Very easy recipe to make with two types of toppings. So we're going to go ahead and go over all the ingredients and how to make it, and let's get to it.
Alright, so we're going to go ahead and go over the ingredients you're going to need today. Now in the first bowl, you need 1 3/4 cup all-purpose flour. You're going to need 1/4 cup unprocessed wheat bran. You need 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar. You're going to need 1 tablespoon of baking powder, a half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now, after that, you're going to need to set aside a half a cup of butter or shortening, 2/3 cup milk, and an optional item of a half a cup of mixed dried bits. Kind of whatever dried fruit you want today. Now for the glaze, you're going to need half a cup of sifted powdered sugar, and you need 2 to 3 teaspoons. You can use either orange juice, milk, or water. Now really quickly on the wheat bran in here, if you can't find the wheat bran, like I couldn't today, you can use, I'm using grounded flax seeds. And so if you have like a bag of regular flax seeds, just go ahead and ground them up and just use the same amount. You can also use like ground rice, like a rice powder. You can use oatmeal, like ground oatmeal. There's a couple different options you can use. So, but we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how to mix it all together. So, all right. All right, so we have our flour, and today I'm using butter. And as you can see, I've pre-cut it, and you kind of want to pre-cut it so it mixes in better. And you just don't want to throw it in, just kind of put it in areas, kind of spread it around. Doesn't necessarily have to be softened, but you can certainly let it sit out for a little bit before you do this, but you kind of want it to be a little colder. So go ahead and get a pastry cutter and just kind of push down. Now we're going to do this until the butter is combined and the flour resembles crumbs. So just go ahead and do that until kind of have it into a crumb-like consistency. So see that? Alright, so it might be a little hard to tell, but our flour here is starting to resemble some coarse crumbs. So we got a good, this is kind of what you're looking for. You're kind of looking at everything to start looking like coarse crumbs. So what we want to do now is I've made a little well into the middle of the flour. So you just want to take your milk and you're going to want to go ahead and just pour it in the middle. Now what we want to do here is we just want to take a fork, any old fork will do. We just want to swirl it around, and we're really just looking for the dough to be moistened. So we're just looking for everything to really combine together into a nice kind of wet, moist, whatever terminology you want to use, dough. So just make sure you get as much as you can. If you feel like you need to add a little bit more milk into it, I would say maybe a teaspoon at a time, but you really shouldn't necessarily need to do all that much. So you can see it's kind of lumping up already into little balls. So that's okay, because what we're going to do next after this is you're going to want to get your flour out And on a nice surface here, I'm doing it on my stove, but what I have is plexiglass, and I really like using this to do a lot of the bread items because they're cheap. You can get them at a department store. They don't have to be the most expensive one. Now, cleaning it is kind of a little bit of hassle because it is a pretty large piece, but these are really good, and plus you can cut on them without really having to care what happens to them too much. So we're going to go ahead now. On your surface, you're going to want to go ahead and lightly flour it, and we'll get to that in just a second. Okay, so we've got our floured surface, so just take your dough and you can just kind of flip it over if you want, just onto it. Kind of get any pieces on the bottom, any dough on the bottom, so kind of stick in there. Got some on your fingers, that's okay. We're going to be rolling it in there. So just take your dough, just kind of start forming into a ball. Kind of get some of the flour on it, so it stops sticking to your hands too. Now, if you want to spray like your hands with some non-stick spray, that would help as well. I forgot to mention that. So you just want to start forming it into a ball first. Now, you just want to combine it until it's nice and smooth. Just kind of roll it up and kind of press down into it, and just kind of fold it and press. Now you don't want to go overboard on the flour. And what we're doing is we're just making sure everything is nice and combined. I like to roll it into a ball again sometimes. And as you can see, there's less pieces kind of falling off this. It's starting to combine very nicely. It's still going to probably feel a little cold on your hands, but that's just because of the butter. Alright, so this is starting to turn out kind of nice and smooth, and we just add a little more flour into it. Alright, so our dough, for the most part, is done. It's pretty nice and elastic, so what you just want to do is you just want to pat it down until the sides are about a ½ inch thick. So you're just going to want to pat it down, and you'll probably want to get out a tape measure for it. You don't have to push this into, say, like a rectangle or anything. Just kind of push the whole thing down. If you need to flip it over, push it down a little bit more. Nothing wrong with that. Alright, not sure if you can see it. I don't know if it's going to show up blurry, but we got about a ½ inch, so this will be a good time to go ahead and cut it. Now I do have a set of cookie cutters. You don't have to use anything like this. The best size is going to be your 2½ inch for these. You can go a little bit bigger. I wouldn't obviously go smaller, but if you don't have a set and you want to make your own, you can actually take soup cans and cut them, and just kind of sand the bottoms to kind of get it smooth. So just go ahead, and you're going to want to get out a baking sheet, and we're going to have it ungreased. So just kind of make your cuts. Now don't worry, if we don't use some of the dough, we're just going to kind of fold it back to half and reuse it. So now on the baking sheet, you want to space these at least an inch apart because they are going to expand in the oven. Alright, so now that we have these on a tray, we're going to turn the oven to 450 degrees and we're going to cook for 10 to 12 minutes or until the tops are nice and golden brown. So and in the interim, we are going to make the glaze to go on top of these. Alright, well now we're waiting for the biscuits to cook. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make the glazes. Now, I forgot to mention in the beginning there were actually two of them. So the first one is the confectioner's sugar and the OJ, and just what you want to do is just kind of take it and mix it together so it forms like a, well, kind of like a frosting almost. If you need to add a little bit more OJ to this to make it work, be my guest. And then once it's done, you can see it combines really quickly. It's not going to take that much time at all. And then just kind of, we're going to set this aside for the time being. Alright, so for our second glaze here, what you're going to use is 1/4 cup of butter, 1/3 teaspoon of parsley flakes, and 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. Now we're just going to put them all in here together. And you just want to actually turn this on low initially to begin with. And we're just going to kind of take the butter, just kind of run it along the bottom to kind of, before this thing starts really going, to kind of get a nice oil down there. Alright, so the butter is starting to boil a little bit. If you need to take it off the heat or actually lower it a little bit, go ahead and do that. We don't want to burn this. We can actually smell right now the garlic powder and the Parmesan or parsley flakes right now. So if you want to right now, just go ahead and you're just going to want to remove it from the heat and set it aside. And then once the biscuits are done, we'll just spoon it on top or brush it on top, and that's really all you need to do for this topping. So, all right. So once your biscuits are done, you want to get out in the cooling rack and just let them sit here for about 10 minutes. And then as you can see, we've got some nice kind of fluffy ones. Some of these might be a little bit harder on the outside, but for the most part, you're going to get some nice fluffy ones. So now we've got our two glazes. So I've got and you want to take like a brush for the butter if you can. It'll be a lot easier. If you don't have one, try to take like a spoon and just kind of, while they're cooling, you want to let them cool for at least 10 minutes. Kind of put it on there. And doing this will help the butter actually soak into the biscuit as well. I'm probably going to do about half and half on these, between the butter and the confectioner's sugar, the actual glaze. Now, I'm just going to actually use a knife on this one. Just kind of butter over the top. You don't have to go too crazy. on it. Probably don't want to go too crazy, but you can if you want. They're your biscuits, so. All right. So if you enjoyed making this recipe, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for future videos. And I want to thank you for watching and have a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, and see you later. Thanks for watching.